Set, Michelle?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Said as I'm gonna be.
As set as you're gonna be. All right, we will call the meeting to order. And review the agenda for addition, removal, or adjustments of any items. Valerie?
Yes, I would like to propose that the fire, or several different fire department topics be added to the agenda. They were intended to be added or included from the meeting last week, but I overlooked it, and so it was not on the agenda, but it was mentioned at the previous meeting regarding replacement or somehow addressing the Spartan pumper. And then there are some other purchase requests from the fire department that they had hoped to be on the agenda.
So if nobody objects,
Either-
we'll add that
that-
to regular business on number 2.
Well, following, perhaps following agenda item number 2, related to the other fire department topic of the exercise room,
Any
or
objections?
before it.
Everybody seems to be, I have to look around. I can't see y'all on screen now. I have to look around and see. All right. So we'll add those other 4 under regular business on number 2.
Super, thank you.
Yep, sounds good.
Anything else?
Also, at the previous meeting, there was mention of Holly Hall roof repair update being on tonight's meeting, and instead we're going to cover that under the department head roundtable.
Okay. Alrighty, then we will continue on if there's nothing else. Overview of Zoom meeting operations and procedures, rules for participation, mute your microphone, be recognized by a member of the board to speak. Everybody should be fairly familiar with that now. Public forum, opportunity for people not on the agenda to briefly speak about non-agenda items. Anyone? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to department head roundtable. Chris, I would be mean and start with you, but you haven't been through this, so I will let you wait and let somebody else go first. Meredith. Unmute, please.
All right.
You can talk all night like that and you won't bother us.
So I have a quick little video, if you don't mind me sharing my screen. I think it would be pretty cool.
Hang on, let me get you there.
Great.
There you go.
All right. Is it sharing now? Ah. All right, there we go. All right, my screen's gonna look a little messy, but hold on for a second. Okay.
This stuff.
Yeah.
Like I have to use this glue when I put this rubber to here. I have to use this glue when I put the rubber to this or to that. I can't use all just one glue. That's just the one corner
Just
though.
one corner.
The second corners look like this. These would be your second corners, and then these get all sealed up after.
Oh wow.
So you get another corner. Same thing with that. That's your second corner. That goes over these. So I'm saying I started those inside ones. See how you get them, and then I'll level and trim all that so it's equal.
And then the finishing touches is,
Yeah, you
is
get
this.
all turned more.
It's looking good up there.
Yeah.
A lot better than it did.
Yeah. So that just to let you guys know, it's getting there. It's a slow process because he does a great job and he's doing multiple layers. There's 2 different kind of glue. But it definitely looks great. I really, it's just impressive. For the other part, you know, we had talked about the copper flashing. That part is on order, so we're still waiting for that. And then just for moving forward, we're going to swap out the 65-footer to a smaller lift because we don't need it as tall now. So that'll actually just decrease the cost of using that lift. So, and he's there. This week's weather looks great. It was hard last week. It was a lot of rain. I think he was only able to do 1 day last week. So And the bell's up there too now. And so once we get it pretty set, everything will be ready.
Good. Anything else on the other front?
Oh, just like we just finished our camps, successful summer. We're going to send out a survey to all the participants and just wait for their feedback and go from there.
Awesome.
A question, Meredith, about the tile or the slate roof. How's that coming along?
So the slate roof is done. Yep. So we replaced 200 pieces, or Chris replaced 200 pieces. So the plan is Chris and I are going to drive my drone around the building and take a look at zoom it pretty close to the slates and get an idea of what our future plans are for repairing the slate. One of the things that he did mention was some of the wood around the windows and the dormers, it's dry, it's very dry. So we either think about replacing that wood or painting that wood. And, kind of like with the painting, it would just kind of a Band-Aid, which I don't really like to do, but so we'll get a closer look with the drone and go from there.
Are we still within budget, his original quote?
You know what, I will follow up with him tomorrow and figure out where we exactly are up to date with, and I can send that to you guys.
We do know that the lift, the expense of the lift may have added some costs that we hadn't anticipated.
Okay.
Not only that, we replaced a lot more slate than we thought we were going to.
Yep. And the slate that we replaced with was definitely needed to be done.
So
As long as we
Meredith,
have, go on, Joe.
so Meredith, last meeting, we talked about why you had the bigger lift here. He was going to check the west side, all the slate for future years to, repair, so we have a kind of a cost. So you're now not going to do that with a lift, you're going to do it with a drone?
Yeah, I think we're going to do it with a drone. It'll just be easier and cost effective. And you can really, the drone does a great job taking photos. And I can literally hover it right there within a foot.
Okay.
Any other questions of Meredith?
Sorry, I guess it's just within the budget. We should find out so we don't have any unexpected surprises as we get closer to him finishing up.
That sounds, I will take care of that and send you guys an update. I do know that I did talk to Randy Sargent and asked if we could, I think he's going to charge us for a 60-foot lift and not a 65, and that we have a 65. So that's fantastic. So thank you, Randy.
Good, thanks, Randy.
Ready. Bruce.
So I'd like to thank everybody that participated in our community meeting on the 17th, or excuse me, the 14th. Thought it went well. Got some, we are going to focus and improve on our social media use to get more information out to the public. And I want to remind anybody, if they have any questions that in reference to the police department, don't hesitate to contact me. They can by email, calling. Other than that, that's it.
Okay, any questions of Bruce?
Not a question, but just an update. I am still working on that webpage update, Bruce. I got to the point where we got the email, the way that the form works, sending to the emails, that's working now. So I just have to create the form, do some testing. So you might see a couple of test ones coming through, and I'll reach out to you in terms of how you want to have that form, confirm the form that you'd like. We'll do some testing and then get that live.
Okay, that'll be great. That'll be another way that people can access us.
Yep.
Ready. Brett LaRose.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks. August has been another busy month with our call volume at the fire department. We've been on 85 calls this year to date, which is a pretty good pace and kind of on par for our annual average. just talking about some collaboration. I know Meredith and Deputy Chief Eric Foran have been working together on September 9th. There's an event, a recreation department event on Movies on the Park that will have fire department representation down there with some public safety information, some fire prevention materials, etc. So that's great. I always enjoy working with other departments. But other than that, as Valerie noted at the beginning of the meeting, there are several agenda items I was hoping to get on this evening's agenda. So thank you for being so accommodating. And of course, when that time comes, I will also we'll revisit what I spoke to you about 2 weeks ago regarding the status of the town's 1997 Spartan pumper with some options and a recommendation. So that's all I have at this time. Any questions?
Questions for Brett? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
And although Eric isn't here, I do have a couple of updates that I can pass along on his behalf, if that's okay.
Yes.
The department has cleaned up the metal that's been stored around the barns for recycling. The McCullough will be done with New Haven on Wednesday and expects to be moving into Bristol on Monday of next week to begin crushing. That operation is expected to take about 2 weeks, and it'll be pretty much all hands on deck for that operation. If roadsides need to be mowed, Eric is considering perhaps hiring a couple of fellas that are familiar with the process to do that. But for the next couple of weeks, it's going to be focusing on the crushing. That's it.
That's because they're moving the material up to the shed instead of leaving it down there because we don't have room.
Correct.
And I believe he also said that they might possibly start on the Harvey Road project this week.
Yes, he did talk with Josh Masterson about that, and Josh asked if it was intended that there be a site visit first before they get started. So that's a question, and how and when that might happen.
He reached out to, I can't remember the guy's name from the river, from A&R.
Yeah, Jaron Borg.
Jaron, yeah. I don't think Jaron's got back to him yet. All right, now you can go, Chris.
Wait, sorry, Brett, did you have a couple additional ones for this part, or is that later on?
Later on.
It's for this portion of the meeting, but
okay.
I can wait till the end.
Sorry.
No, he mentioned it in the chat. I just wanted to jump in. Sorry.
If Brett wants to finish up, that would make more sense. It would probably be more cohesive, and then I can follow him. I'm fine with that.
Go ahead, Brett.
All right, thanks, Chris. Yeah, just been a whirlwind day, so my apologies. But I thought it would be worth noting. I typically don't wear my Class A uniform to attend select board meetings, but today the members of the Bristol Fire Department, of course, the Kimball family here in Bristol, are they're experiencing a loss with Rita Kimball. Rita was a longtime dispatcher for the town of Bristol Fire Department back during the days of our 10 fire phone system. We actually recognized Rita for that, and 6 or 7 years ago we had a special presentation. But Rita not only was a dispatcher for the town of Bristol, but her husband Bob was a 40+ year honorary member of the Bristol Fire Department. And Rita had 3 sons, 2 of which currently serve on the New Haven Fire Department, Marcel and Stephen, and Darwin Kimball, who passed away in 2016, who gave over 30 years to the organization. But the fire service is strong in the Kimball family, and I certainly thought it was worth noting, just acknowledging the passing of Rita Kimball, who provided a service to the town of Bristol. So thank you. And the other item I wanted to bring up is, if you have an opportunity, anybody, if folks remember when we moved into the new fire station 5 years ago now, hard to believe, July 2nd, the town was transitioning from their old wooden green park benches to the kind of composite green material that we see today on the park. And those old wooden green ballpark green benches had been in service and used at the fire station for all these years now. And in the last year, a couple of them were really showing their age, rotting, falling apart. But through the efforts of several people on the fire department, I just wanted to acknowledge Caleb Rockwood, Nathan Buska, Peter Coffey, Pete Bouvier. Their efforts, combined efforts, have restored these 4 old park benches. They're not green anymore. They're black frames, metal frames with a clear coat on some natural. They're very beautiful. They kind of jump right out at you when you drive out behind the fire station. They're there for the public to use, for the firefighters to use. So I just thought it was kind of great that we do what we do really well at the Bristol Fire Department. We pull our resources and people just give up their time and do something really great that benefits the greater good. So if you have an opportunity to swing in and take a look, go over there and have your lunch someday and sit on them, and you can see the new clearing out back.
Post a
But
pic on
that's it.
social
Thanks,
media.
Speaker. Right. What's that, Valerie?
Post a pic on Facebook.
We will do that. They literally, Peter Coffey finished assembling them today and they are sitting outside. So we will do that, Valerie. Thank you for that idea.
Well, if
That's
they have
it,
any
Peter.
leftover materials, I know 2 more that are currently, one's in front of Holly Hall and the other is by Cubbers that need some tender loving care.
Unfortunately, we used it all up, Ian. Sorry. Thank you.
Now you can go, Chris.
Perfect. Just to follow up on actually Brett and talking about the benches, he gave credit to a lot of our other fellow firefighters. Brett spent a lot of time finishing those benches as well. As typical, the chief isn't looking for any self-adulation on that, but I feel that he should be recognized as well for his hard work on that project. On to zoning, what do we got going on? A lot of stuff has been going on this past year. Right now, probably the 2 biggest things we've got is the Stony Hill project. The business park, as we know, there's some clearing beginning. They received their conditional use for their first building a month or so ago through the DRB, and the residential project in the same area was officially warned today for a September 14th public hearing for their conditional use for 20 units. Other things we've had going on, a lot of construction, everything from new homes to, in the last year, everyone seems to want to build a shed or build an addition. We've also seen a pile of properties turning over, and every one of those properties that sells or refinances requires a certificate of compliance from my office. So I go out and review those. And another conditional use that occurred was Willowwell. If anyone's aware of who they are, they do a outdoor early childhood education project. They're actually partnering with a local landowner to move their preschool program to Bristol. It's going to be off Sherman Way, I think is the official location, where the landowner had a yurt that they were living in while they built their house. They're converting that yurt into a preschool for the Willowwells program. So that was a lot of fun and exciting to do with them. Also been chasing down, unfortunately, a handful of violations and just dealing with folks. It's been a rough year and a half with folks at home. I think they're being anxious has created some concern with a lot of folks. So I get a lot of calls of, hey, do you know so-and-so is doing this or so-and-so is doing that? And most of the time we do. And it's just really juggling that. It used to be like 5 or 10% of the job was that. I would say easily 50 to 60% of my job now is dealing with neighbors concerned with neighbors' activity. So it's been a tough year. I think that's everything I got. If I missed anything or if you all have any questions, I'm here.
Questions?
I have a couple questions.
Go ahead, Ian.
So it looks like I couldn't remember because meetings were quite a while ago, but it looks like the solar at the Terracin building that went in and is all installed now, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then my second one was, I saw in Front Porch Forum, there was a little bit of talk about the tree that came down on the Parmelos property. And a person was asking about, because it was in the design review district, whether there was any issue with that or whether any control. And I don't believe there is, but since you're here, Chris, I wanted to check with you.
Nope, we have no control over somebody's personal property.
Yeah.
If they feel they need to take down a tree, especially in the case of that particular tree, there was definitely a safety issue surrounding it.
Yeah.
Well, I know it's a big old beautiful tree, but it was also the landowner was concerned of safety. So.
Yeah, I figured. Okay, excellent.
Hey, Chris, I have a question. On the COs, when you issue a certificate of occupancy, not compliance, you're issuing a CO for a project.
Michelle, I don't want to stop. I don't want to interrupt you, but the town of Bristol only issues certificates of compliance. When we rewrote the zoning back in 2018, I think, we eliminated certificate of occupancy. It's the same document for either occupancy or compliance when a project is completed.
Okay, so when you do a certificate of compliance, when somebody applies for a permit, they have to get a certificate of compliance when they're done. Do you issue that when they're done or only when somebody applies for it?
Only when they request it. So if it's a new home construction is a great example. For a bank, in order to process that loan, they're requesting a certificate of compliance at the end. And that's the checks and balance there. Smaller projects, I have a list. I go through them on a monthly basis that I run a report out of NEMRIC and just sort of check what's going on. I'll drive around the community and see where progress and go from there usually.
Okay, so here's my question. So like you have a contractor or somebody who's building their own house. Well, they may be building a spec house and they're going to sell it. So you're not going to, if they get a permit, you're not going to issue a compliance unless the seller requests or the buyer requests at the time of the sale.
Well,
correct?
Technically, I mean, right now that's the way it's queued up just because of volume. In all reality, every building project requires a certificate of compliance upon completion.
Okay.
And I follow as much as I can with those. It's like I said, Valerie, go ahead.
I have a hypothetical question.
Sure.
If there's a residential development with several lots and the developer has a curb cut permit, but the curb cut permit does not comply, does that affect someone buying a property in that development?
Absolutely. Because at that point I would not issue, I mean, one of the things that there's two big things that we review as far as outside of the actual building permit, which are on the permit form, which is wastewater and potable water permit from the state of Vermont. And the second is a curb cut or access permit from the town of Bristol. So if a contractor or developer has a curb cut and there are conditions placed upon it, if those conditions are not met, I won't sign off, which usually hampers their sale, which makes them really try to be compliant as soon as possible.
So Chris, do you coordinate with like Eric when you go to issue a compliance, to make sure that they have complied with the curb cut?
Yep. I mean, Eric and I, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, on Friday, Eric and I actually chatted on a couple curb cut applications that he had some concerns on. And so him and I are in contact on a regular basis.
My other question was about, water connections, and do you connect with Cyrus about those at all? No.
There's nothing in our zoning that gives me any authority to inspect or require water connection. All I do, I have 4 criteria that I actually use when I go and look at a new, especially a new home. It's, do they have a working toilet facility, electricity, heating source, and a cook surface. Those are actually criteria that I took from Moncton zoning that I apply to our zoning unofficially. And those are things that I really feel are required to make a house inhabitable.
So is that something that ought to be fine tuned? Or
Yeah.
at least ought to be documented?
Yeah, and there's a couple other pieces that I'm actually, so one of the things I'm working on behind the scenes is, it's sort of twofold. One is a document of when somebody wants to do something, like what permitting do I need? Do I need a permit? And it's a document that would give people sort of a pre-built checklist of, hey, you need to contact the state of Vermont as far as your septic or your stormwater permits. You need to contact, we need to go through the process of getting an access permit if you don't already have one. On the flip side of that, I feel that we need to add a couple things. It could be whether it's a water hookup, it hasn't met the town's needs. The other one is E911. Have they applied for and been assigned an E911 address? I feel that would be imperative before we sign off on a home, because it's a very easy process to get.
Any other questions of Chris? All right, well, thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
A lot to catch up on, so in the future, it'll probably be just a quick blurb and everybody will be happy, and it's not something you have to do every meeting, but we encourage you to sit in every couple meetings ourselves, just so that we, if we have questions, we're not guessing or we're not wondering what you're up to.
Yeah, and as you all know, I mean, it can be a challenge for my meeting times. I do this for a few towns, so I juggle my time and try to give everyone as much equal time as I can. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Is the Kevin we got Kevin Hansen, or is that somebody else?
Must be Kevin.
Somebody else.
Somebody else. Alrighty, then we will move on to regular business. Their award of contract for West Street Slope Repair Project. Review next steps needed to go forward. Sounds like there might be a few unanswered questions as of yet.
Yes. As I mentioned in my notes and in some follow-up messages, there are a lot of moving parts to this situation, and yet it's under a limited window of opportunity. There was a bid opening on August 3rd. A low bidder was identified. This project requires all 4 property owners to agree to participate. They all need to commit to authorizing access to have the project occur on the property, but also a financial commitment. And the low bid contractor needs to make arrangements with the Lathrops to cross their lumber yard in order to access the project area, and that has not been accomplished yet, to my knowledge. So none of those things are secured yet. 3 property owners expressed interest last week in going forward, but there again, some of the financial details need to be sorted out. And so in my notes, I recommend, well, one option is for the select board to authorize acceptance of the low bid contractor, subject to all of those things happening. All 4 property owners agree, and then the whatever financial and easement agreements are secured, and whatever negotiations need to happen between the contractor and the Lathrops happens to everybody's satisfaction, all by September 17th, give or take a day or two. Because there's a limited window. Once right now, nobody's under any financial obligation, but once a contract is signed with the contractor, then we're all on the hook.
We're all on the hook, even if they
The
don't,
town is the sponsor.
that everybody has to decide to go forward, and then we're on the hook.
Right, because right now, the town is the grantee. And the town is extending this obligation to the property owners for their proportional share of our required 25% match. That's typically how it's done when it's involving private property, which this grant program is focused on private property protection.
But
It's
it's an all or nothing. If all four don't agree, then this does not move forward.
Correct. And even if all four do agree, but the Lathrops and the contractor do not come to an agreement, then that's also a showstopper.
What happens if it doesn't move forward? The bank continues to erode?
The bank is not protected. It suffered significant loss during the Halloween storm. And there's nothing to prevent it from continuing to do that. And so it without armoring the toe of the slope, the toe of the slope will continue to be eroded, and that'll undermine the upper slope. And so the upper slope will continue to come down. One of the things that's also a factor is there are two ineligible components to the project. One is the trail restoration, and that was identified as a separate bid item. And I learned late last week that there's also a safety fence at the top of the slope affecting two properties. And that, for some reason, is not eligible either. And so that cost would be distributed among those two properties. But the trail, which is about $3,200, is not eligible for any of the grant funding. And that would have to be covered locally. And we all agreed, everybody at the table on this project agreed that the property owner should not bear that responsibility. So that's why it was isolated. So we would need to the town would need to come up with an approach to deal with the $3,200 expense, whether out of the conservation fund or whether the rec club steps up and does some fundraising for it. I don't know that that needs to be decided now in order to go forward, but just know that at some point a final decision would need to be made on that.
So with regard to the deadline, so we have it's December 10th. This project has to be
It needs to be
completed by.
completed, right?
Given that it's August 23rd right now,
Right.
the likelihood of that happening seems very, very slim, but mainly because we don't even know if one person is interested, one property owner is interested, as well as access on the other side. Is this grant available in next year's time frame or a year after that, or does
No,
it go
it's
away?
already received at least 2 extensions, and this is the last.
Okay.
Because this was 2019 that it happened.
Okay. Are there any other grant opportunities if we miss this deadline? No.
This is it,
So it just continues to erode.
right?
This
And
is a FEMA thing.
I completely understand the dilemma that all of the stakeholders are in. It's a
Right.
it's an unwelcome situation.
It's also something that doesn't directly impact them until it directly impacts them, perhaps.
Right.
Last time, in '98, when there was some work down there, it was then the Brewkyard property, but that's where Blow and Cody crossed the river. That's the property up from Lathrop's. I don't know who owns that now. I think it changed hands.
Up towards the town this way?
I think the daughter actually owns.
Is that where you guys burned the house down?
Yeah, well, that was Lathrop's.
Yeah, but up past that.
Yeah.
The
This
next
way.
one.
But I don't know, that may be too far up the river too.
Yeah.
But that's another, I know that the river was forged there before when they had to get rock across, because that's where Blow and Cody went across. But that may be an option.
So you're saying there's another property that could allow access other than the Lathrop wood products?
If it's across from where the work needs to be done, that's the thing I'm not sure of, Ian. It's further, it's closer to the bridge. So it may be it may be like behind the bank instead of behind the properties we're looking to fix.
Yeah, I think the access, the access that's been designed by the engineers really relies on being right at the toe of 25 West Street, which is
Where the bulk of the material has to go.
right. Yeah, that's the area of biggest impact, 25 and 27.
And then what's,
Sorry, but the other bidder got permission, correct?
Yes.
Say
Not
that-
impossible to think that that Lathrop's would give that permission.
It's not, it's a matter of whether they're gonna want,
How much
whether
they're gonna want.
they're gonna pay.
Right.
And then that,
That changes the.
whether it either changes the bid or they withdraw their bid.
Or there's some other agreement, but whatever that might look like.
Okay.
I mean,
But so far, the
two-
Lathrops have been open and to this project, they're aware of it. They've observed the slope changing for many years. And I think they're inclined to be cooperative. And they're interested in, when I talked last week to folks, Jason was concerned about the number of trucks that are expected to go through the property and material that's going through the property. The other bidder did coordinate with them, but the low bidder did not.
Did the high bidder give money?
there's quite a difference between the low bidder and the other bid received.
Mhm.
Do we have concerns about that? I don't know much about this. I don't know, Peter, what your experience is. You know, that's obviously a huge number difference. What does that mean? What are we not getting, or what are we, I don't know.
I want to be careful what I say, Ian.
Sure.
Now, but I want to step in here, that we, in the executive session, there is the option of contract negotiations. If something might be tender to talk about openly, there's an option to continue that part of the conversation confidentially.
Yeah, I don't need to get into nuts and bolts. I was just curious, and I think the public would be curious, just because it's not like, oh, it's 100,000 difference or whatever. You know, it's like a huge jump. And so I was just curious, like, what does that mean? Is it the materials where they get it from? Is it just the amount of labor, or, you know?
It could be any number of things. It could be overhead. It could be, you know, what they charge per hour for their equipment.
Right.
What equipment they're using.
I see. But, and the access that you just mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I'm sure the access, I'm sure that they probably had a dollar number in there for access.
Okay.
But I can't imagine it's that much.
Valerie, I'll make a motion that we accept the low bid and work out the details of the contracted in executive session. Then if I get a second, I got a follow-up question that can be in public.
I'll second. Wait, hold on. Sorry, Peter. Go on.
Yeah, okay, we have a second, but so we can discuss it.
Okay.
I'm just,
Yeah,
how can we make a motion to accept the bid and then?
I know,
add conditions later? If we're gonna add
I
that.
don't think we can do that.
We know what the amount is, and I'm not gonna. Right, go ahead, Valerie.
I would recommend withdrawing that motion and reconsidering that after you have a discussion in executive session, and when we come out of executive session, then you make your motion.
Okay.
Whatever.
That's fine. I just thought we were doing a lot of discussion. We hadn't even brought it up on the table. That's all. I'm fine with that. Fine with that.
Yeah, I'm for the motion, or for putting this through, just so we can move on this and hopefully get it if everything aligns. Like, I think we should definitely decide tonight, you know, with stipulations. But yeah, if this is our opportunity to do it, and we've got a couple months to do it, and let's do it, and hopefully everything aligns.
I guess my question is, Valerie, we had this same thing from I believe the Halloween storm of 19 on Ireland Road, which has been nicely done, repaired and everything. And that homeowner paid 10%.
No, it was all 25%.
The 25, okay, I stand corrected then, I'm sorry.
Yep.
That was 10.
I mean, I don't know that it's necessary to discuss this in executive session, other than the fact that the motion would be pending access. I think that access is the only real issue. We know we have to pay for the trail. We know the fence has to be paid for by the two properties that need it. I don't think there's anything else in there that's an issue.
Well, the financial commitment,
The financial commitment, but that would have to be worked out. I mean, if
Right.
if it adds money to the bid, it adds money to the bid, but that part of it is not, as long as it's not excessive, that's not gonna change who we accept for a bidder. Like I said before, I can't believe that the difference between the numbers, I can't believe that it's even close to costing that to gain access,
Does the work have to be complete or just started?
completed.
By
So just by the
December
end of
10th.
October?
December 10th.
For December 10th.
And there may be another glitch there, in that you're not allowed in the river after the 1st of October or the 15th of October.
Jaren Borg and the Corps of Engineers have issued permits that I believe
Ah.
go into that time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm fine not discussing an executive session too, Beaker, if that's, people agree to that.
I mean, I don't see where we're gonna, the only thing you're gonna get in the executive session that you're not getting here is my opinion of why there's such a difference.
So would you be, if I made a motion to accept the contract pending
Access.
river access, property river access, and the 4 property owners agreeing to the price?
They have to,
Well, they have.
they have to in
So
order
that's
for
in
it to
there.
go ahead, yes.
No, that's part of
That's part of the agreement, then I will make that motion. We accept a Kingsbury or Kingsley Trucking
Thanks, trucking.
for the contract for West Street slope repair pending river access gain.
And that the contract not be signed until those things are in place. I want to be sure that this motion by itself is not creating an obligation. It's the signing of the contract that does it.
That's just, yeah, thank you.
And are you gonna be in to be able to sign that when we get there, or do we need to
Good.
designate?
Good
One of the
point.
three
Yes,
of us.
designate or authorize myself, the chair and or the vice chair to sign.
I'll move that with the motion. So Tasha, can you put that in and then read it back to us?
Well,
Please.
hang on one second. I'm still trying to write it all.
She's on page 2 of that motion.
No, yeah, right. I have a little ands in here, so I haven't cleaned it up yet. But Joel Bouvier moved to accept the bid of 2,000 whatever. I'll write in the company in a minute, pending access to the properties and financial commitment from the property owners, and the agreement not be signed until all of these things have been met, and designate town administrator, vice chair or vice chair to sign the agreement.
And also in my recommendation that that September 17th, plus or minus a day or two, be the deadline.
Okay,
You accept?
That's
Yeah.
good. Yep.
second that.
Further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Can I ask a question? Okay, go ahead.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Val, I just wanted to check, you know, you and I were talking about financial commitment by the property owners and how we deal with that. Are we gonna deal with that after this is all worked out? Because once the contract's signed, then we're on the hook if they don't pay, or if they don't come up with their 25% share. Correct?
Talked about was using the same template and same model that was used for the Stony Hill Business Park, because the town is the grantee on that project, and Stony Hill Properties has to pay the town back. And that agreement basically puts a tax lien on the property if they don't pay.
Just for the notes, what's the, is it, each of them are they combined paying 25% of the project?
It's proportionally, it's proportional, and you can, the minutes don't need to show it, but the town administrator's report shows some of how it's broken out among the different properties.
Each property pays 25% of the work done on their property.
Well, each property is affected differently. So one property has more of an obligation than another one, and it kind of goes down the line.
They pay 25% of the work done on their property.
Collectively, yeah, but not all the same.
It's not the same amount, but it's 25% of the work, 25% of the cost of the work done on their property.
Right, right.
All right, can we move on?
Sure.
Good. Well, we've got a vote and everything, so onward we go. Review of proposed amendments to the fire department exercise room liability waiver form.
Hopefully folks had a chance to review the proposed amendments to the waiver form to incorporate police officers to be able to use the equipment room. And also the comments from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns when we sought their review. They basically said the waiver form is fine, but they did recommend some adjustments.
Michelle?
Well,
I know
I
you.
have questions, I have concerns, and which I had concerns the last time we created this. Number 3 talks about if any of the equipment is found to be broken or defective. I mean, is there anybody in the fire department that maintains that, checks that all the time? Because we're on the hook if something happens. I mean, the town's gonna be on the hook for that. My other concern is, I'm concerned about kids under 18. Because the town is on, the town would be liable for anything that happened to a minor, and really a parent can't sign a waiver for a minor. I mean, they can sign it, but it doesn't really mean anything. And if a kid gets hurt there, they have until 3 years after their 18th birthday in order to sue the town. That's a statute of limitations. So, I mean, I have a lot of concerns about family members coming in. I mean, it's one thing if it's the firefighters or if it's the police officers, but adding family members, I really have a concern about that and the liability for the town.
Okay, why don't we get everybody's concerns out and then we'll mull through it. Brett?
Thank you, Peter. So this subject has been circulated amongst Valerie, VLCT, Bruce, and myself for several months now. We've just been trying to find the right time to come back and revisit this subject. As you folks are all well aware, when the fire station was constructed, it was the intent to, well, not only to hopefully someday construct a police station out back, so we could share those common spaces at the fire station. One of those common spaces being the exercise room. And just for the purposes of this discussion and for those listening in, I think it is important to define the exercise room. I recall when the fire station was being built, some current concerns that were raised. Why is the fire department getting a gym? You know, there's already a gym in town, etc. Well, this is a 200 square foot room that is filled with donated equipment. With the exception of this past year, we actually had to break down and replace the bike and another piece of aerobic equipment because the ones that were donated finally broke. But it's simply some free weights and things that were donated. It's a very small space. You really can't have any more than 2 people in there at one time. But I as a user of this space, it's convenient for the firefighters. Of course, we want to promote health and safety. And, you know, I do recognize and acknowledge when this was put in place, and I got it at the time. But as Valerie is aware, as I've shared my feelings about this, I've expressed my concerns regarding VLCT's comments. Just to be very honest with the select board, in my opinion, and it is my recommendation that this waiver of liability go away. And that is because we do many things at the Bristol Fire Department that are not within our scope of work. As an example, we shovel snow, we fundraise, we clean, when we could easily hire these things out to third-party vendors, but firefighters do these things to, save the taxpayers a few dollars. It's just kind of an expectation, if you will, something you do at a fire station. But I personally know 2 people who have died from shoveling snow. Yet we expect our firefighters to keep their doors and the apparatus bay doors and their walkways clear all winter long. Exercising is a controlled activity, one that of course no one should do without consent from their physician after consulting with them. But there's an entire national standard around firefighter health and safety. And what this waiver of liability does, in so many words, it says we don't support our firefighters staying healthy, because the full intent of this waiver of liability is to say, if you get hurt, sorry, you are on your own. Well, if a firefighter pulls a muscle, if they have a heart attack, shoveling snow, well, that's a liability on the town. That's going to fall right back on you. No different. So what I expressed, what I shared with Valerie and with Bruce, again, it is my recommendation that this document simply go away, or we have a conversation about implementing waiver of liability documents for all the other activities we perform at the Bristol Fire Department that are not within our scope of work. Thank you.
Bruce, have you got concerns or comments?
One of the biggest concerns that, things that affect us with the trying to get a gym membership is having the ability to access it when we have time. That was one of the reasons when Brett had brought this up in discussion. I thought it was a great idea. Due to our schedules, we're not always available to go when the gym is open. So, other than that, I agree with pretty much what Brett has said.
So are we in agreement that the families part of this would go away? Is that your understanding as well, Brett?
So it's been in place since the beginning, and I guess I thought I already said it, that the exercise room would be available to immediate family members, a spouse, a significant other, or a partner. And if you had children, they had to be of 18 years of age. And I can say with 100% certainty, no one under the age of 18 has ever used that space, because I have been asked, and I've, regretfully had to tell them no. So that we have definitely upheld that, and that has certainly always been the intent. We saw it as a benefit for the commitment and the sacrifice those folks are making over there, the time they give up. And if it's an activity, you can do with your partner, your spouse, your wife, your husband, what a great activity to do together. And I certainly see couples over there working out. So that has not been an issue, Peter.
Well, I just wanted to be clear, because it's one of VLCT's concerns, so.
Yeah, and I don't know why they're reading into it, but we have never allowed anyone underage to work out in that room. And it's always been immediate family members, as that was the intent of this document from the very beginning.
For the police department, we're only interested in the police officers.
Michelle, your wheels are turning.
I mean, I disagree with you, Brett, in that I don't think this looks as we don't support you guys. I mean, if we didn't support you guys, we would say nobody else is allowed to use it but the firefighters. My concern is more in the fact that it does put us at a liability if something should happen. It puts the whole town, whether it's a firefighter or not, we're still at a liability. I see what VLC is doing. They're just trying to limit that liability to just the police officers or just the firefighters, not expand it out to the family members. So I get that. And I get what you're saying about having the immediate family. I don't know that we ever talked about 18 and over when we had this first discussion. So that's probably why that kind of came up now. I thought they were saying family members as well. Didn't matter what age they were. I don't know.
The agreement is something we need. Do you
And
think
Peter, if I may, we're talking about two different things right now. We're talking about this waiver of liability exists and the appropriate language to be in it and bringing the Bristol Police Department into it. But then we're also talking about whether we even need to have such a document, or do we have this document for other things? So I think we need to address one item at a time.
That's my question to Michelle, is how does she feel about this document as it pertains to the exercise room? She probably has more, she definitely has more legal background than I do, and probably more than the rest of us. So the question is, does she feel that it's necessary, given the fact that the town is on the hook anyway?
I mean, I think any attorney will tell you, yes, you need this. You know, whether it's worth the paper it's written on, I don't know, but they would tell you, you need this. With respect to other stuff, Brett, the one thing I'll say to that is, you know, you talk about them doing stuff that's not in their scope of work. I mean, we all do that, but that said, most of the ones that are doing that are firefighters who are covered under our workers' comp insurance, where somebody else, a family member who might happen to be in there, is not covered under our workers' comp insurance. So that, to me, that's a distinction on whether they're covered or not, you know, whether they're doing something at the firehouse for a meeting that they wouldn't normally do. If something happens to them, they're covered. If a family member comes in and uses the gym and a weight falls on their foot and breaks their foot, the town's on the hook for that.
Brett, can I ask a question?
Certainly, man.
I'd like to just understand the use of the room. Do folks have to sign up for that so you know when people are going in and who's going in? Is there a sign up of some kind?
Not at this time, because that has not been a problem, Darla. You know, we kind of coexist, and the people who regularly use it, you know, they kind of have an idea when other people work out. So that hasn't been an issue. And as I discussed with Bruce, you know, should their officers begin using the space and that was to become a problem, you know, just the timing and when people are there, you know, then we would have to consider having like a sign up sheet. I do have one of my firefighters who unofficially manages the room, you know, responsible for the maintenance of the equipment, the one who ensures things are kept clean and disinfected, and, you know, puts out the reminders periodically to everybody. It's like any other piece of equipment we have, you know, we need to take care of it and make sure it's in good working order all the time.
I'm also thinking of with COVID, you know, you said it's a small room, maybe it might be a good idea if when going forward to only have family members in at the same time. Just a suggestion.
Again, I think we're actually talking about three different things now. I mean, I think the first question we need to answer is, do Bristol firefighters and do Bristol police officers need this waiver of liability document to utilize this space? And if the answer is yes, then we can talk about the other items, and we can also talk about the implementation of this waiver of liability, a similar document for the other things we do at the fire department. So I think we need to answer that question first. Then we can talk.
You got the wheels turning here, Brett, and this may be bad.
These are all great questions. I certainly appreciate everyone's position. You know, I respect Michelle's opinion. You know, I know she works in a legal office, so she has firsthand knowledge of stuff. You know, as I said to Valerie in an email, I'll quote it, you know, I understand that BLT is concerned about liability. It's their job. You know, firefighting is a high risk profession. People get hurt all the time. And as I said to Valerie and Bruce, I don't mean to dramatic, but sometimes they even die. But, you know, liability is in the nature of our work, just what we do. But I can go over there just as easily and, you know, pull a muscle, shovel in snow, or fall off a ladder when I'm, I don't know, cleaning the cobwebs out of the corner. We do so many things over there that aren't they're not a scheduled duty, they're an expected duty. But again, we do those things, in hopes of saving the taxpayers of Bristol a few dollars. But I can tell you, as a representative of the fire department and as a representative, the majority of the people there who, put forth this extra effort to, to keep that facility up and running and keep it in the condition it's in, that, it sends a message that if you require such a document for this particular activity and not for others, or just go away. Again, it's Michelle, the select board supports this 100%, the town supports this. I made that very statement to Valerie. That's not what this is about. It's just about fairness. It's about perception. And, we want to ensure our firefighters feel supported, and they do, but I just think it sends a mixed message. That's all. So that's why we're having the conversation.
So where I was going, Brett, was I was trying to simplify. When I said you got the wheels turning, I was trying to simplify things. And as far as I'm concerned, and then my personal opinion is that we don't need this document for the employees, which would be the firefighters themselves and the police department. They're all employees. Huh?
That's what I was gonna say. If you don't.
They're all employees of the town of Bristol. Therefore, the only thing we really need to discuss is the liability for family members. And that's my opinion. But I think it's pretty simple that these are things, it's town property, it's town equipment at this point. It's town employees, and it's no different than, like you said, it's no different than shoveling the snow, sweeping the floors, or whatever they're doing. It's the same with the police over the police station, sweeping the floors or whatever. As far as the employees go, I think we don't need this document. In my mind, the police can use it as is now if it fits the schedule. So I think that if there's agreement or consensus there, then it's the family members, and we already have a document that we use for that. So let's just let the police use the exercise room and move forward.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't want to get rid of this, then only the police and the firefighters can use the equipment, or you can use the exercise room.
Their employees, they can use it now.
Right, I know.
If we,
But I'm saying, if you want to get rid of this, then the family members cannot.
but we already have one in place for the family members,
Which is
be it good or not. I mean, the police aren't looking for family members to do you wouldn't be changing anything by letting employees use it. That's my thoughts. Ian, you pondering there?
Yeah, I mean, Peter, I agree with you. I think I don't think we need it, especially if employees are covered under their own insurance anyway. What this waiver does, and where I think a lot of the confusion is, it doesn't explicitly spell out who this waiver is for. It's, reading through it, it's, they've added, the VLCT has added some comments and stuff, but there's no specific thing talking about the firefighters themselves. It's very broad. It mentions in there, but I think we don't explicitly spell out who this is for. And I think just some minor word changes could just fix that and make it available to partners or immediate family members. And this would be the liability for a family member or partner, but it wouldn't affect the rest of the employees.
Brett, is that a hand up to talk there? I'm not familiar with how this whole thing works.
How's that?
Go ahead.
So, yeah, well, so I'm sorry, I probably could have spoken up earlier and saved a lot of conversation. I'm in 100% agreement with you. If a family member is to continue to use such a space, a waiver of liability document is absolutely required. Absolutely. I don't disagree with that at all. But it's about taking the firefighter piece out of it. And of course, allowing Bristol police officers to utilize the space with also, not having to utilize such a document, but family members, absolutely. And so the practices today, when a new firefighter comes on board, they have a lot of forms they have to fill out for the town of Bristol. And regardless if they ever set foot in that room, they sign this document and it goes in their personnel file. And
Okay.
when that person gets comfortable at the fire station, it says, you know, can my girlfriend, can my wife, can my husband come over? Sure. As soon as you provide me a signed copy of this form, they can. So that is the practice today. You will find any spouse, significant other, partner that utilizes that space today, you will find that signed document in that firefighter's personnel file.
So let's clarify one thing at a time here. Is the board in agreement that firefighters and police can use that room as it stands now without a waiver? Because
Yes.
they're employees? Yes.
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 As long as we have a town, yes.
Okay, so that part of it settled. Are we happy with the waiver that we have for, or do we want to change the wording a little bit so that it's for,
That specifies that it's.
that it specifies that
Yes.
it's for family members or significant others? If
Family
something-
members over 18.
Over 18.
Yeah.
I think that's-
Family members over 18.
Yeah.
Does that
A little-
work for
a
you,
little-
Brad?
Yeah, honestly, my opinion, I say you know, if Valerie gives this document back to VLCT and says, you know, the board agreed that the firefighters and police officers don't need to have it, but this is specific to immediate family members and their immediate children that are over the age of 18, and let them write it. You know, you're paying them already. Make them write it.
Great.
That all sound good to the board?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, so
VLCT won't write it, but that's okay.
Yeah.
They'll just give you comments.
So you have our blessing to use the room, Bruce.
Thank you.
Get down there right now, Bruce.
No, I'm going down.
All right, I don't have the list of, are we all good with this? We're moving on. All right,
Yep.
your first
I
item.
don't have all.
I don't have
So-
it in front. Brett, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
and that's okay. Is, you know, I shared this information and with Valerie, and it obviously it got lost, and it's nobody's fault. And if some of these items we certainly could revisit in 2 weeks, it's not imperative that I receive approval to spend capital equipment funding this evening. If you folks would like additional time to sit on these, I'm okay with that. But at least one of the items, which involves capital monies, is something that we do need to at least discuss. And it's regarding the 5-year elevator service, I guess. Joel probably knows the official terminology, but anyway, I had 4. I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up the email here that I sent to Valerie. I have several agenda items. One of them includes the discussion regarding the town's pumper. So if I may, I'd like to save that for last. But what was bringing forth this evening regarding capital funds was in FY 2021, through the sale of those self-contained breathing apparatus units, because you folks authorized me to sell them because we received the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Award to buy the replacements units. The $8,420 we generated in revenue and the $500 donations received, all deposited into the fire department's capital equipment fund. Items I'm requesting authorization to purchase, which aren't currently identified in the capital plan, but have since been identified as needs. One of those items being a replacement rapid intervention team pack. I know Peter and Joel know what I'm talking about. But the rapid intervention team pack is a special unit to rescue firefighters. It's compatible with our self-contained breathing apparatus. We applied for this particular item with the Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program, but we did not receive the funding specific to this item. They did award us for the 17 SCBA units, but for the one rapid intervention team pack to replace our now out of compliance 2002 rapid intervention team pack. The cost of that is $3,040. And that is the lower of two prices quotes I got from our two Scott vendors. Scott is the manufacturer of our SCBA units and the only two salesmen vendors that are authorized to sell products in this region. But this is the lower of the two quotes, $3,040 for that replacement unit. And the other couple of items, we do have some storage space at the fire station. One thing we have lacked since day one is appropriate shelving. We have an abundance of fire hose we keep in storage, and we're constantly having to move it around by hand. And if you've ever handled a roll of either 50-pound 2.5 or 110-pound 5-inch hose, it's heavy. And to have a rolling rack to store this stuff on, so we can actually better utilize and maximize our storage space by continuing to store the stuff in this location. However, when we need to move it to get to other essential equipment, we can simply roll it out on wheels, opposed to having to carry it out by hand. So I have a couple storage racks. These are, the brand is called Ready Rack. Again, I know Peker and Joel are familiar, but the Ready Rack is consistent with the gear rack equipment that is currently in the fire station, that red caged looking equipment we have. So it's that same vendor. And the other item was an $2,160 expense for a 5-year full load safety test as required by fire code on the town of Bristol's fire station's elevator. This is a conversation that I'd like to have with the board during budget season. I've learned of 2 5-year type services for the fire station, the generator, and now the elevator, that wasn't aware of. They came up by surprise. When you don't budget for items for a $2,200 5-year service on an elevator, and you don't budget for a $1,600 service on your generator every 5 years, it kind of hurts. And I think those types of expenditures, in my opinion, would come out of a town's capital building fund. But I'm just guessing. I don't know the condition of that fund, but I know there's a lot of work going on at Holly Hall, and I'm sensitive to that. But with the revenue we generated from the sale of the air packs and the 4 items I just listed to you, that rapid intervention team pack, the 2 shelves, and this $2,160 expense for this elevator test, which currently our elevator is out of compliance, and apparently we're going to get a letter about that. That revenue generated from the sale of those air packs will more than cover all of those expenses.
My only concern is and you hit the nail on the head, that we need to budget for it, but that is not the elevator is not a capital equipment expense. Right. I would feel a lot more comfortable buying some other piece of equipment, be it hose, a nozzle, an axe, whatever, and utilizing capital equipment funds to do that and pull that $2,100 or $2,200 from the hose line or an equipment line you have, because I almost guarantee you the auditors aren't going to like that either.
Okay, well, and that's great. That's why you guys get paid the big bucks. Those are the things I'm not aware of. And, I'm just looking at this from a dollar standpoint. We came into some funding that we didn't have allocated for other things. It's not taking away from the fire hose and the nozzles that we do have on our capital plan to purchase when we receive the town's new pumper. And hey, I'm all about, if you have another pool of money in a town building fund and you're willing to pay this expense, then yeah, I'm all in. But again, I'm just being sensitive to the fact that maybe that pool of money in that town fund is not healthy right now.
I guess what I'm trying to say is you overspend your maintenance line, and you pull that money from an equipment line, and then we can reimburse that money for that equipment out of the capital equipment fund. If you Just so that the equipment money buys equipment and the
Okay, I'm fine doing it that way too, Peter. It's just, I guess my, not concern, since you've now kind of explained it to me, I don't like the practice of, okay, we go over because we didn't plan, the fire truck cost us $10,000 in service this year instead of the 5 we planned on. And you just, the expectation is you just don't spend other budget line items you obviously you have a budget, an operating budget, because you have planned expenditures. It's not a good business practice. And I know you know what I'm talking about. And that's why I think it's worth a further discussion during budget season. Whoa, sorry about that. Here's my phone. That's that hand talking thing I do. Worth further discussion in budget season about perhaps setting aside a few extra dollars annually for any town building, these big expenditures that come up that we don't foresee, we don't plan for, so we don't get into this situation. But I'm all in favor of filling out a purchase order because the dollar amount and asking for Valerie's signature, her approval, and just funneling it, if you will, through my operating budget. Happy to do that.
We need to create an emergency fund somewhere around each
Yeah.
one of these for
Valerie.
things that come up that we
Valerie, how much
that
is
we
in the
don't know
building
about.
fund? How much is in the capital building fund?
I would have to look that up. I don't have that at hand.
We don't know yet because we don't have the.
When we looked at it, the Holly Hall
still
project was pretty healthy.
It's not a building equipment, or it's not a capital building
it's
expense.
a maintenance
It's a
expense.
maintenance expense, right.
So it has to, I think the auditors are gonna say that it has to come out of your maintenance line. And that's where they're gonna put it regardless of where we take the money from. When they see that that's an elevator maintenance, it's gonna be put
What's the
in the
difference?
maintenance line.
What's the
I agree.
difference than the roof on what we're doing right now, which has to be done from Rooster for the bell tower? That's maintenance.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes,
All right.
son of a bitch. Listen, you're going Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. He's gonna.
Whoops.
Nice going, Josh.
Somebody was that's okay.
Reviewing cover.
I mean, I see both sides of this, that in 5 years, do we add $2,000 to the maintenance item, or Brett's 2,100 for the elevator, and that'll be 2,500 in 5 years?
Well, now that Brett knows about it, he at least can add it to his budget so that we can plan in 5 years that, okay,
Yeah, but I
we
don't-
now have that maintenance item that we're gonna have to do a budget for.
I don't like that spike. Like you said, we're gonna have to find a place to put it
Right.
so that we have it every year, but,
Because haven't we bought like overhead doors for the garage come out of capital building?
yes.
And I agree we're not buying anything, but this is a one-time, every 5 years.
Yeah, but
you
it's
can hit with this
a
elevator.
maintenance item.
Maintenance.
If you're buying a door or fixing a roof, that's a capital
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were buying an elevator, then it'd be a
I mean,
capital building.
I think the rack, Brett, is 5 years overdue. You're absolutely right. The storage room, when you want to get to something way in the back, it's always in the back corner. You gotta move 10 rolls of 2.5 and 3 rolls of 1.5 inches.
We're saying those are good. He can.
But I was wondering if you are one of the best of writing grants. How about Valerie and Brett get together and try VLCT, do that under prevent workman's comp? I mean, lifting that stuff could cause a back injury, and could we write a grant and maybe get half of that paid for from VLTC? It's just a thought I had there.
I'm happy to look into that annual, or maybe
I know
it's
VLT
twice annual. I know exactly the passive grant. And
They
see, they have a list of items that are eligible, and something like that may or may not be, but I know I've vetted that in the past for other items, just so I can come forward and in good faith say, we looked at another option where we potentially could get this item for half price, and I will certainly do that for these items.
I mean, they did it for the cameras on the highway trucks. They paid for those because backing over somebody or something. They're all about health, and maybe they'll give some money for that. Okay, but I think it's long overdue. I like the idea.
So if that's an official ask, is that an official ask for me to table the 2 agenda items that involve the purchasing of those rolling shelves, if you will?
No, I would make the one motion that I'd make the motion to go ahead and
We
purchase those 3 items.
Yeah.
Pending any grants. Pending
Well,
any
I
grants.
wouldn't even say that. I
No.
would say from your capital equipment fund, you've got the money.
Yeah, second.
All right, so we have a motion to purchase the rip pack and the 2 rolling shelves.
Yep.
Any further discussion?
So we don't want him to, before I vote, we don't want him to even ask for, even try to get some money, free money.
He's got the money
Yeah,
from the
he's got the
SCBA.
Oh, really?
If I may, just to at least to satisfy and answer Joel's question. So I think in fairness, I think it'd be great if you guys approved me to move forward with that. But first, a part of your motion, perhaps just asking me to look into if those are eligible items to purchase through the passive grant. And if they are, certainly willing to pursue that. But if they're not, I could continue to proceed with the purchase.
That's all I
Go
want.
ahead, Val, because I think the passive grant, isn't there a time frame for that?
It's offered twice
Yeah.
a year. And it's very competitive, and they only have a limited pool of funds, and it's always oversubscribed with applications. So even if we have a winning application, it might not rank, depending on what else is in the hopper.
Doesn't matter, our budget, we approved to buy them, how we pay for them is depending if they say yay or no, that's all.
Is it possible to if we were to receive the grant, if we already purchased them, could we then replace that money in the budget?
No, they don't, grants, they
Sorry.
don't care for that at all.
I was trying to make it.
They don't like you to back it up.
Brett, I was trying to make it
Have your
work.
cake and eat it
I
too.
You never know until you ask.
If I'm not one to pat myself on the back, but it's, I'm always happy to look into how we can save a few bucks. But, as your volunteer, your fire chief who works pretty much in a volunteer capacity, I give a tremendous amount of time to the town, to you folks, to the taxpayer, and I truly enjoy doing it. I wouldn't do it if I didn't want to, but sometimes if you guys are able to support me and perhaps save me a little work, for all of us who are stretched pretty thin, it's certainly appreciated.
I have to echo Brett's comment, because sometimes the grant application process is a lot more work than it's worth in terms of the money you actually get. And then, so there's the application process, and then you get the grant, and then there's all the documentation and compliance and this and that. And by the time you're said and done, it's a lot of work, and it might not in the end be actually worth it.
We're talking $5,400.
We're only talking $2,000, 2,200.
No.
Yeah.
Because it's just the SCBA will not be available, just these
No.
2. No, just these 2 would be eligible
Oh,
for
I
the
see what you're saying
grant.
for the grant. Okay,
So we're only talking $2,200.
okay.
So I have a motion and a second, further discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. That's for the 3 items. So the elevator, are we in agreement that comes out of the maintenance line? And we understand you're gonna overspend that maintenance line, Brett? And if you take it from an equipment purchase, then we can get you that money back if you need it.
Okay, no, I'm fine with that. I will, like I said, I'll get a PO to Valerie tomorrow so we can proceed with that. I'm sorry, can you guys still see me, by the way?
No,
Yeah.
you're gone.
I'm gone?
Yeah.
All right, well,
But you're here in spirit.
Right, you're talking the elevator, you're talking the elevator and the generator.
No.
No, just elevator.
Yeah, well, but to answer Joel's question, that's another that capital expense, but I'm gonna funnel that through our fire station maintenance line and our operating budget as well. And Valerie's already signed the PO on that one. At that one, I wasn't going to ask for capital funds. I was just gonna utilize our maintenance line to take care of that expense.
So to be clear, if that was 1,600, right? Or
2160,
Yeah, no, the
No.
generator.
Generator was
Oh.
21, it was 16,
okay.
and the elevator was, so you're taking $3,700 out of your maintenance item, that budget line, that had how much in it?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's under two.
Matter what's in it,
Yeah,
maintenance.
it doesn't
It is maintenance.
And we can, if he's got equipment he needs, he overspends that line by $3,000, we can give him that equipment money back out of the capital equipment. We can't give him capital equipment
Yeah, I
money
get
to
that, I
pay
get that.
maintenance money.
I know how this works, but it could come out of, if we have less calls, the labor's down, or at the end of the year, or
Yeah.
less gasoline, or fuel oil.
It could come from somewhere else,
Some of
yeah.
those other lines, okay.
But
All right.
he's good with his budget. It's
Right,
not
no.
like he's,
But
it's that he
It's
spends
more than
money
just
where he should.
2,100, he's spending 3,700 out of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
In budget.
It's also okay for the budget line items to reflect their actual expenses and not be reimbursed from some other source, because it happens sometimes, like with vehicle equipment or vehicle repairs. Sometimes a lot of stuff happens that isn't planned, but those line items show the actual higher expense than what was expected. But in the end, what's really important, or what we look at, is the bottom line of the department's budget. And as long as that's in the black, then it's expected that some line items are going to be, over, under, but it all balances out at the end.
Perfect example.
Yeah, but
Well,
you want it that way because then you want to know what your true expenses are, so then you can budget better or
Right, going
differently.
forward.
Exactly.
Okay,
All right,
okay.
the
Are we
truck,
onto the pumper tanker?
Oh.
Something else.
Yeah, well, so thank you for that support. It's never easy asking to spend money, but I know it's part of the job. So yes, 2 weeks ago, I reported to you that the town's 1997 Spartan pumper, which is what we consider our frontline pumper here in Bristol, went through an annual service, and that service identified 4 cracks in its frame rails. And I guess if you know anything about vehicles, frame rails are an essential piece of the vehicle. I don't mean to make light of this. Spent a long couple of weeks regarding this truck. But so as I said, I wanted to come forth with your options and a recommendation. So we do have several options. So we could, option number 1, we could weld the frame rails at an estimated, this is a ballpark estimate, of $7,000. Now, however, a repair weld, from what I understand, is, yes, it may fix the problems. However, it does not get rid of any potential liability issues should there be, a failure of that frame in an accident, a vehicle accident or something. So it's an option, but really, when we work for a municipality, I guess it's probably not the best option. The likelihood of it happening is probably slim to none, but what do I know? But I still wanted to let you know that's what it would cost to repair the frame rails. The next option is to replace the frame rails, and the estimate I received for that is approximately $38,000. And that's not a surprise to me, only because I've been hearing, our neighboring department, they have been going through this very experience, and they are replacing their frame rails because they weren't, it wasn't time for them to replace their pumper. And I know they're spending, I think, much more than that, because of course you start digging into an older vehicle, you're bound to find other stuff. So $38,000. A third option is to rent a comparable vehicle. So speaking with these companies, we could rent a comparable pumper to our engine 1, we call it, at a rate of $3,500 per month, $3,500 per month, or a cost of $24,500, which would cover us essentially for the next 7 months until we, the town, take delivery of our new pumper. And the fourth option is we sell the town of Bristol's 97 Spartan pumper, and the estimated revenue generated from a sale could be anywhere from 12 to 15, could be more, could be less. In our fire department capital apparatus plan, when I built that, it currently lists $15,000 revenue generated from the sale of that truck. Of course, that's the sale of that truck, thinking it's got some value. It doesn't have broken frame rails. But there may be someone out there, a company that is looking for a used fire truck for other purposes, perhaps for insurance reasons or something. But I think it's certainly worth looking into that option. So with that being said, this truck is pushing 25 years old. We, the town, have invested a significant amount of money into that truck in the last 3 years. And because a working group at the fire department has spent, I don't know, 14, 16 months designing the replacement, the scheduled replacement vehicle, which has been ordered, as you know, because you folks authorized the expense of a few $100,000 up front. And we do have under contract a delivery date of March 31st, 2022. And we have proven in the past, when we have been down a pumper for 2, 3, and even 4 weeks at a time, that we can provide effective fire suppression services with one frontline pumper. We have excellent mutual aid in our 5-town area and in the county, and we rely upon them for any type of working fire. And that's not going to change. We simply adjust our operations at the Bristol Fire Department, which we have been doing. We have been moving equipment around, updating our inventory softwares, getting firefighters oriented to where this equipment is located, because like I said, that's a frontline truck. That truck rolled out the door on every single call. And I'm still trying to get used to saying engine 2 when we roll out the door on the other truck. But anyway, it is my recommendation to the select board that we proceed with the sale of the town's 1997 Spartan pumper, and any revenue generator from that sale be placed into the fire department's capital apparatus equipment fund to offset future purchases of our vehicles. Questions?
I don't really have a question. I mean, I was gonna make a motion to sell it if you think you can survive without that pumper and just use your pumper tanker and mutual aid.
We can't use that truck.
Yeah, I know that. We have the pumper.
So what it does, Michelle, is we have a truck. It's called the mini pumper. Its primary function is a water supply truck. It goes to that rural water site, fills tankers, or lays out what we call a large diameter hose, great distances to move water. It's like we're building a hydrant system on the fly. It's pretty cool stuff. But that truck is also, it's a frontline piece. It doesn't carry 1,000 gallons of water, so it can't be classified as what they would call like a type 1 pumper. But because of the way it's set up, that vehicle, the limitations we'll face with taking engine 1 off the road is engine 2, as you're aware, is a larger vehicle. It's 4 feet longer. That doesn't sound like much, but that's 38 feet long. It's a tandem axle opposed to a single axle, and it weighs more than twice of what engine 1 weighs. Engine 1 weighs approximately 35,000 pounds, and engine 2 weighs approximately 70,000 pounds. And that's because of the water it's on board too. Engine 2, the one that's still in service, carries 3,000 gallons of water because it is by definition a pumper tanker, not just a pumper. And engine 1 carried 1,000 gallons of water. So accessibility in some driveways is problematic, especially during cold weather when we're dealing with snowbanks and such. However, as I stated, the mini pumper is set up to be an attack truck. It has hand lines on it. We've actually moved a couple of our self-contained breathing apparatus to it. So that truck goes up that rural driveway that the big truck can't get to. And on the back of it is a big reel. And it's a big reel of like 1,400 feet of large diameter hose that it lays out behind it. And the big trucks sit down on the road and they feed it. So we can continue to operate. It's maybe not quite as efficient as we'd like it to be, but I'm not going to say it's any less effective. It's just different and something we have to get accustomed to over time. It's just using our vehicles as we've never used them before, changing their primary purpose. So that is a change in operations, and it's no doubt going to be a challenge for all of us along the way, but I'm quite confident we will persevere and overcome this challenge, because it really, to me, it's not fiscally responsible to spend any amount of money, any more amount of money on the town's 1997 Spartan pumper, and we should just cut our losses and let her go.
I would agree.
I was saying, I just can't see throwing any more money into it.
You know, and in all honesty, the department has practiced using the mini pumper as a frontline attack piece. So it's not like they don't know what they're doing. The only difference is it's only gonna have 2 people on it instead of 6. So,
I mean, at first, when I saw the numbers, Brett, I thought, you know, remember when we ordered the 97 and then the engine tanker, you know, we'd love it April 1st, this next one, 22, but it'll probably June or July before we get it. And I thought, well, $7,000 to get the frame rails welded, you can get us maybe 9 or 10, 11 months more. But will it bring us that much more value? Probably not. Could another rail break? By the time you get the weaker spots fixed, you could have another crack or 2. So before I came to the meeting, I pondered again. I says, no, it's time to let the old girl go and get by.
If we could weld and repair those frames, and you know, somebody certified it, if you will, and our insurance company said, yep, you're good to go, I think I would be asking you, can we invest $7,000 to get, you know, another 7 to 12 months out of this vehicle? But with no guarantees, that liability piece hanging over our heads, quite frankly, I don't think it's worth the risk.
I know the welder I think you were talking with, and I would guarantee his weld, but it doesn't mean the frame's gonna break in the different spot that he didn't touch. That's still the old 97 frame.
That's exactly what he said.
Right, so I make a motion that we sell the 97 pumper, let the fire chief work with the town administrator to sell the 97 pumper to the best feasible price that he could get.
And put that
He
money
wants
in-
to put it in bid, or I don't care if you, so,
and put that money in the capital.
and put that money in the capital equipment, the capital apparatus fund.
Second.
further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you all very much. It was a lot this evening. I wasn't looking forward to it, but thank you. No, good discussions.
Did you have one other thing, Brett, in your email, or do you want to save that for later?
I don't know, Valerie, did I?
Can I ask one quick question of the last topic? So you're saying sell the 1997 pumper and let Brett
Authorize.
negotiate or authorize?
Is the fire chief to sell the 1997 pumper?
Okay, thank you.
Well, he ain't gonna sell it for the cheapest price he can get. I know him better than that.
Your agenda item 4 was discussing the relocating of the diesel tank.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. And actually, I this conversation with Valerie today, that item is going to be tabled. It was at September 13th, Valerie.
Correct. It's going to be on the agenda for the next meeting as part of the public hearing for that project.
Okay, super.
Thank you.
Perfect. Alrighty, consider request for additional street lighting on South Street.
Yes, and some additional information evolved today on that subject. It turns out that following a site visit with Eric Coda and Eric Carter last week, Green Mountain Power went ahead and changed the light wattage from, let's see.
35 to 70 or something to 80. Right?
Yeah.
It was something to 20. But this picture she gave us doesn't really show us South Street. It shows everything behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I have no idea what lights they're looking at, but this is nice.
It's a
So they
20
increased
LED to
the
a
wattage,
60.
the light level from 20 LED to 60 LED.
And which light? Do we know which light on South Street they changed?
Eric probably does, but he's not tuned in tonight.
Look and see.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Did
this
they
is
talk about
Merchants
the one
Bank.
near,
No.
did they talk about the one near George Vince's office?
Yes.
Wasn't that the discussion?
And probably if we look out the window, we can tell which
No,
one
they
it is.
wanted to put a light at George
Oh, they wanted to
Vince's,
put a light.
but they didn't do that. They changed one of the wattage of the bulbs.
So
Well,
I have some questions about this. Is there a reason why they just went ahead and did it? It's going to cost us more money. It's money that we haven't.
Well,
haven't-
that occurred to me that maybe Eric did give some sort of go ahead, but yeah, that occurred to me that they went ahead and made that change without our asking them to do it. I have a question about that. And it goes from $12.10 a month to over $20 a month for that increase.
Right. It's an extra like 250 a year, which isn't a tremendous amount. And I like the responsiveness of, being asked, but I feel that we should have understood it more instead of something just happening.
Right.
Like I would have liked to have seen the area. I wasn't familiar with it. It was, it's still so light even when we start.
Right.
And just to see if we, not just swapping out, because there was concerns about extra light levels affecting residences around there. If there are opportunities, like if we needed to have another light, on another pole as opposed to just swapping out. So this might be an ongoing thing unless it satisfies people's needs.
So I guess this is something we'll just watch and see if it creates an unintended consequence of too much light in some people's windows, whether it completely solves the concern at hand and there's no other effect, then maybe it's worth the extra dollars.
What was the concern?
That's what I was gonna say. When I was reading the email strand, I was unsure of where they were saying there wasn't enough light. Were they talking about right on South Street? Were they talking about parking areas outside of South Street? Because, if it's private parking areas, we're not responsible for lighting those. So that's what I didn't get it.
I think it was starting down the hill past the old Dr. Henderson's office and the old two doctors' office down there in the corner. I think it was in that area. It was a little dark too.
Well, I mean, Eric's original email talks about additional nighttime lighting on South Street. I've heard this concern from my own employees and some new residents that they feel unsafe walking on the South Street after sunset. Can we add at least one more light on the new pole in front of George Vince's office? I think that would provide more safety. So I think he's saying broadly that there just isn't enough lighting along South Street. I don't know how far we're continuing down, probably to the last house. And I can't remember how many lights are actually there. I don't think it's very many. It is a dark area. And I don't think there might be lighting at the funeral home. Is there a pole across there? I can't remember. And then,
On the
and
other
as you
side
said,
of the
Michelle,
street.
yeah, the map was the completely wrong area. It was just their poles there, I guess, or how they're getting electricity there. But I think, Val, I think you're right. I think we monitor and see what people think and revisit this if it's brought up again, perhaps.
Maybe the
But
four of us.
I do intend to ask the question about authorization and whether
Yes.
thing that Agreement on Power can just take the initiative to do and affect the town's budget, or if it should have required town authorization.
I would think so, given that we're paying for it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know that we pay a reduced rate or whatever they classify it as. So perhaps there's wiggle room because of that. It's a utility and they're providing this and it's a public safety issue and things like that. But it's obviously nice to know, especially if they're like, hey, we swapped out all your 21s for 60s in the entire town.
Right.
Something like that. Like, hey, we've got a new thing that we're doing. Everything's much brighter now. And also, can we please have $10,000 more?
All
That's a
right,
very valid point.
let's move on.
Maybe the four of us, when we leave tonight, drive down South
Yeah.
Street, down around by. see-
All right, consider, yes, I'm moving on.
Good.
Consider Jackman's Field pre-buy offer of fuel for operations for the period of September 1st, 2021 to April 30th, 2022. And this is propane, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Correct.
And it's not Jackman's Fuels, it's Jackman's Inc., I believe.
Jackman's of Bristol.
Oh,
Because Jackman's Fuels is Virgin's.
oh,
Jackman's of Bristol.
good to know.
I'll make a motion that we buy the pre-buy with one exception. I think in your report, you said that the hub used a little less gallons and you're cutting that back. But then in the bottom line, you said the hub wasn't open all last year. I think you ought to increase that hub by 100 gallons.
We put it back to 400,
Yeah.
so 75 gallons.
The hub, right? Yeah, the teen
Yeah,
center hub, yeah.
Yeah.
You
Increase it
budgeted
to 400?
400 last year and you only spent 100 or 315.
Because it was closed.
It was close, so I think you should put it back at 400. You have it this year at 325.
Yeah.
So I had a question about the
Dog pound?
dog pound, yeah.
So did I.
If we're not using that, why do we need to heat it?
We just need to shut the water off.
My guess is it's automatic because there must be something that needs to be maintained for heat. But that's probably because of water. It is served by water, right?
Yes.
That's probably why.
But can we shut the water off?
Jill's there.
I see her in that little circle.
Water is shut off to the dog pound. It has been for like 2 years.
So is there any reason why we have to heat it? Do you know?
It should probably be discussed with Eric just to confirm. But
That
Cyrus
shut
was
off.
running it off like 2 years ago. It was shut off every winter.
Yeah, and all of a sudden it was inhumane to use, so stopped using it. And it's been
Yeah.
shut off since.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, that was my thoughts too. We're not using it. Why are we heating it?
Right.
Yeah.
Throwing money out.
If you pick a dog up that's wild in the wilderness in the cold, and we put him at least in a
He goes to the police station now.
in a heated shelter, but it's unhumane. I can't figure that out. $1,000 in that thing 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, so can we look into that and see if we need to?
There you save that fuel from going.
Sure. So
We'll give it
potentially
back.
minus the dog pound.
Okay.
All right,
Shut the heater off, they're not gonna use it anyway, we're gonna get it back.
yeah. Everybody set?
Yeah.
All those in favor of?
Wait, I need a second. I didn't hear a second. For the
And just to be clear, to increase the hub to 40 or 400 and eliminate dog pound or look into eliminating the dog pound?
Yeah, check with Eric, and if we don't need it, then.
Eliminate it.
Tell
Okay.
Eric that his new break room,
Yeah.
his new office. Parts for.
All those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
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 Opposed, nay, motion carried. Oh, lovely. Set the fiscal year 2022 municipal tax rate.
Well, this shouldn't be too painful. It's not much change from the prior year.
It's just not what she sent us, though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. That's what I printed
I
out.
got in the TA report.
Oh, dear, that's not true, yeah.
What number do you have? Looking at the TA report right now.
And so we usually don't we set the tax rate with the school tax? We set it at $2 or don't we set that? So you want me to make a motion to say we set the tax rate, municipal tax rate at $2.49?
No, that's the homestead, total homestead
Okay.
tax rate is this,
I'll do
non-homestead
that.
tax rate is this, and then these are the municipal tax rates that.
Without,
Wanna
go
say
ahead, go ahead. I'll second.
Do you want me to make the motion? Okay,
Typically, we make it and then we spell it out.
so what do you want me to do?
So typically we do the homestead and tell what it, and the 3 rates or 4. And then go back through and just say what the municipal rates are, I believe.
So the municipal rate without the police district for this.
Yes.
Okay, so the 2021-2022 tax rate for a home, total homestead tax rate is $2.4933. Tax rate for the non-residential is 2.4766.
That-
total,
The school.
what's that?
I believe that includes the school.
Yes,
Both of
it
them
does.
include the school. Total police district tax rate is 0.2961. So taxes for the police district for the homestead is 2.7894. Non-residential tax rate is 2.7727. And the municipal tax rate without the police district is 0.7292.
A whopping increase of
0.28%.
0.3%.
I just think that's that last municipal tax rate. Because we just gave you the residential tax rate with the school district.
Yep.
It's. I realize they don't know
What our portion of it is.
what our portion is of the tax bill, and that's probably just for, but their tax bill is going to be, if you live in this town, 2 point.
That's what she said.
2.49.
All she's
Right.
doing is telling you what the,
Was it broken out?
so we set in the tax rate, residential, non-residential, police district, and whatever the other one is.
Valerie, can you scroll up for me, please?
This way?
I'm just screenshotting the.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Val, I
Did
Did somebody
thinking on
second
here-
this?
I'll make second.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, is there on here, like, what the school, the education tax rate was? That's kind of what I was looking for, and I really
Well-
didn't see that.
Wouldn't you
Separated
subtract 0.92?
Yeah, I know, I was just hoping
That's
it
where
would
it's-
be, just be on there.
On the form, on the document that was sent, the rate itself, well, let's see. Hang on.
State homestead tax rate is 1.7641 and 1.7474. That's the education rate. There it is, okay.
There's an education
Yeah.
rate, and there's the.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on there.
1.7641 and 1.747.
Right, it's in the.
It's on there. It's the bottom line before you hit the total on,
Right.
on the
If you go
spreadsheet.
back to the other screen, Val, the other spreadsheet,
Right.
it's on there. I just wasn't looking clearly. So where
Yeah, I
it says
see it.
state homestead tax rate, yeah. Yeah,
So you're paying $1.75 for the school and 92 cents for the town. Alrighty, further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
yippee, that means we're getting tax bills soon.
All right, continued consideration and possible adoption of amendments to the Bristol Water Use Ordinance.
Like,
I did not print that off.
I did.
Did anyone have a chance to look through it?
I did, page by page.
Oh, my.
Shocked,
I am shocked.
I'll start with my corrections. Yeah,
Or signature.
no, some corrections, I believe.
Okay, can you email it to me?
Nope, I'm gonna do them tonight for the
Well,
public.
I know that, but can you email them to me?
Sure.
So I don't have to keep track of them?
I can give you this whole document when I'm done.
Okay.
Page 2, 1.05. Should that read an installer, a contractor, or other natural person of business entitled that performs? Should be only one that there.
Yeah.
Am I correct in saying that?
That,
Okay.
One that there, correct.
one there, that.
Page 3. 1.17. says the water operator shall mean the same as the operator in section 109, but it's actually in section 108.
Mhm.
So that should be 108 there, not this.
Okay.
And then 2.01, water commissioner shall be on the same page 3. Water commissioner shall be responsible for operating. I'd like the word of the town water system, not water system town. Am I correct in saying that, Michelle? Doesn't sound right. Water system town. Should say town water system. Right? Okay. And page 4E, I didn't make a note there. I highlighted if the water meter ceases to operate properly for a reason other than the acts or emissions of an installer, owner or user, or comma, owner or user, the town shall remove, repair, and replace the water meter at town's expense. We had the one that froze up there with the owner's fault because they didn't have heat vents. So where would that fall? That's the question I have. If one freezes because of the lack of the owner having heat, where does that fall?
Well, I thought there was, I'll have to remember, but I thought we had something in there about if it was the cause of the neglect of the owner user, then they're on the hook for that. That's why I have to look.
Put neglect in there.
That falls into that category.
That's D, right?
That was E.
No. You talked about E, but what they just mentioned is in D. If
Mm,
an installer, owner, or user damages a water meter, right? Isn't that would be if the water meter was frozen?
Right, at their neglect, because of their neglect.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
then.
so we're covered. Yeah.
303, page 5. I know it's, hold on, I gotta find it in another page here way back. It's a second, you guys.
We're not going anywhere.
You told me to read it. It says no person shall neglect or recklessly or knowingly cause water to be taken at any service location or elsewhere and in any manner consistent with the application of service. Later, we say about fire protection. Fire department and our VTUMS operator is responsible for, but this doesn't, 1204.
I was
That's
gonna
right.
say, you wrote the section down.
That's all right, Michelle.
That's okay.
In 1204 says the town will not charge for uses related to fire protection. But should this 303 say about we can use it for fire protection?
No, because I think the 1204 says that.
It doesn't say, well, I'm not sure. It just says it doesn't charge for it. It doesn't say we can use it.
For usage related to fire protection. I think you're still covered.
Yeah.
I mean, I can ask Kevin, but I think you're covered. I think
Okay.
that's covered.
And then in the case of 4.06, in the case of a water service line requiring immediate repair, should be repair.
all right.
Okay, see, Tasha, you're not the only one who makes mistakes in your minutes.
Those would be my mistakes.
Well, you probably did this.
Actually, Michelle did catch that in an earlier version.
Okay, but she didn't change. And then
What section was that last one in?
406.
And then page 14.
Oh my, whoa.
Here we go. Zing.
Jumping.
All the way to 14. I thought it was good, but you guys read the things. This was a lot of cut and paste I could see because it says page 14.05, number B, Rutland Stormwater Commission within
Yeah,
7 days.
I fixed that. Yeah.
Okay.
I fixed that one.
And then
Which one?
Page
Wait, back up. What are you referring to?
page 14,
Right?
14.05, number B says Rutland Stormwater Commission.
Oh, yeah.
Got that.
Okay, and then I didn't understand page 15, the offenses. The first offense ticketed for violation shall be punished with a civil penalty of $500. The waiver fee shall be $50, but it has in parentheses 250. So you're waiving 50?
No, I had fixed that on,
And I had a question on all of them.
yeah, I fixed that because the numbers were the same, but the words were different or something. So Kevin put the numbers in there, but he didn't fix the wording. So
Okay,
I
All right.
fixed that, yeah.
and then 4.08, he's got Rutland unit pursuant to again in there.
That one I might have missed.
And that's all I had.
Nice.
Good job. Jill, did you have anything at this point since you also reviewed it?
Did we lose her? Nope, oh, you're muted, Jill.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Also, you're hiding in grass.
Hold on, let me change the setting.
Volume is very low.
My messy living room. All right. I
Might want to
guess
change your audio setting. Very low.
Weird.
I'll figure it out. Yeah.
That is better?
No, it's the microphone is usually automatic, so I don't know why you're so low.
She's been screaming all day and now she's just talking nice and soft.
Yeah.
You might have to scream at us
Is this any better? Hello?
loudly.
Mildly.
Mildly?
But we can hear you.
All right, so I noticed that one of the things that you would consider to be an emergency would be the water storage tank level becoming low. So there's been a recent request to conserve energy to allow the water tank to get to whatever level to only pump at night. My concern as the operator is at times where there may be a leak or a fire or greater water use on a hot day, that we may be down half a tank of water to try to conserve energy. Where the water tank fills has to do with keeping the water reservoir almost completely full at all times. So I think in order to conserve, we just need to be careful what we're giving up to get a lower energy rate. And that's not in the ordinance, but it's if all of a sudden we only have half a tank of water and there's a very bad leak that takes a day to fix, we could run out of water. So it's just kind of,
Well, Jill, you could run out of water if you didn't turn the pumps on, right?
Right. So there's a suggestion that will be coming to the board to only run the pumps at the water pump house from 11 p.m. to 5:59 a.m. during off-peak hours. We run
Only, you want the ability to be able to run it should we be low.
I'm just saying it puts the water system at a storage deficit on a continual basis by doing that.
And where is this ask coming from?
Oh, it's just something new that came through. And I think if it were to be considered, there'd have to be a pretty careful line between the level in the storage tank and conserving energy.
Jill, is it safe to say that the water level at the tank is important to maintain not only for supply, but also water pressure? So that if the water level increases, to anticipate, for example, I'm just thinking out loud, that if the pumps are running at that hour in the off-peak hours and they can fill the tank to a higher level than ordinary as a buffer, would that change water pressure or have some other kind of unintended consequence?
I think we only have another foot left to go up high before we overflow.
Oh, that'll do it.
So I don't think so. And water pressure is 2.33 PSI per, let's see. I think for every 2.33 feet, you get 1 PSI. So we only get 1 PSI from the tank height of water. So it's not really that we lose more than maybe 10 PSI in the system if we came down 10 feet, because the tank is so high up. It's that we wouldn't have 300,000 gallons of water in reserve. Because we are up to 600,000 when we're full. And if we didn't pump for, say, 18 hours, we could get down to 350. So again, not necessarily, it's only related to the ordinance as such that you're defining an emergency as the water storage reservoir becoming low. If it were allowed to not fill, but only at night, and something were to happen, it could get quite low.
So are you I mean, because we don't have that in the ordinance now, Jill, so are you suggesting we put that in there? Under a water service emergency?
No, I did see that the water reservoir becoming low would be considered an emergency.
Well, I guess if we don't consider it, play this out, if we don't consider it an emergency, then can we, as a board, call for ration of water? You know, no watering gardens, no watering washing cars, no watering your lawn. Without an emergency, can we say that?
It's called a conserve water notice, and I think we've actually done it before. Just as
I
a,
remember when we used to send out, no, you can't water your lawn and stuff. I remember when we had to break across the river years ago, people.
Yeah, but if we have a break, that
Then
takes
that's
a
an
couple of
emergency.
days, by the time they get notification, the emergency is gonna be over.
hopefully.
But I just was going back, if we don't have the language in there that if we have a tank that's only 25% full, then we consider that classified as an emergency because we maybe only have 24 hours of water left if we can't get the pump, if they're still running. But could we, if we don't have it classified as an emergency on our ordinance, can somebody say, you don't have it in here as an emergency, then I can water my lawn? That's just what I'm just trying to ask.
I mean, I don't see why as commissioners, we can't put out a water conservation notice.
Right.
You know, we don't need to have a water.
We don't have to have it in the
We don't
ordinance
need to
then?
have an emergency to issue that.
It could be in anticipation of something too.
Okay.
And they say we're in a drought.
Jill, how many gallons, when you said 10 to 6 o'clock in the morning, how many gallons does that supply the reservoir back?
Let's see. It takes about 2.25 hours to come up a foot, and every foot is about 24,000 gallons. So we can come up, well, 2, 4, 6, in 6 hours, we can come up about,
15 feet?
yeah, about 3 feet, a little less than 3 feet, which that's about 75,000. Give or
But
take.
you said in 2.5 hours you come up how many feet or how many gallons?
It takes about 2.25 to come up a foot during demand. Because what happens is the water tank, as it's filling, there's also demand on the system. So if you look at our pump times and you look at generally how long are we pumping and how many gallons are we producing, we can kind of look and see how long does it take to fill back up given filling during the day or at the night. I do think it would take, maybe it would only take 2 hours a foot at night because there's less use of the actual water on the system.
That's basically 4 feet or just 96,000 gallons of water in 8 hours. You pumped up there in the middle of the night.
Yeah, except off-peak.
24,000 gallons a foot.
Yeah, off-peak is only 6 hours according to the rate schedule for Green Mountain Power.
I thought you said 10 to 6.
It's 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. Ooh, we get 7 hours. Ooh, we'd get closer. A little bit closer.
I thought their peak was actually 8 to 6.
So the question is, do we need to add anything to this document? And it doesn't sound like we do.
I don't think so.
Jill, you talked to me the other day, called me on something about we didn't want in the document, and I don't remember exactly what it was about setting the rates.
I would like to understand from Michelle and from others, can you have appendices inside of this ordinance that can be changed without having to go through the same adoption process?
That's my understanding.
Okay.
That's why we're doing the appendices that we have so that we can go and change them.
That's great.
Right. For example, when the water rates get changed, it's not a full ordinance readoption process. It's just updating the appendix.
So you can update your appendices anytime you want? Okay.
I think so.
We still have to adopt them, but we can change them.
as an independent, we change the rates sometimes, not every year, but we don't go through a whole ordinance thing and we just change the rate, set the new rate, like we set the new tax rate.
Right, and materials for construction could change over time, and you might want to change your construction specifications, so I think that's great. I was just concerned if it got rolled into the ordinance and became that, 6-month to 2-year process, anytime you wanted to change a rate or a construction spec, that could be a hazard to avoid.
I think that's the reason they recommended doing that, was so that we could change it without having to do the whole document.
Yes, that's great. I'm glad. We used to have to just point to them and weren't allowed to include them in the ordinance itself. So that's good. Keeps them closer together.
Anything else?
We make a motion to approve the water ordinance with Joel's changes.
Well, there are some blanks that still need to be filled in, but if those are just minor things that we can just do administratively.
Yeah, I mean, I think that some of the stuff where you were talking about the emergency operator and stuff that you wanted to fill in, Val, that you said you weren't done with.
Where was that?
You had them highlighted on your document, your original document, that you still wanted to. So I wasn't sure if there was more you were adding to that.
Oh, about water emergency?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think just trying to understand what the definition should be, because prior to this, there was no definition. So this was an effort to define it, and it was just there on that page, wherever it was. 2 something, 210, 2.10. But so this is a new definition that wasn't there before, and if folks are okay with it, at least for now, then it's better than nothing. And we changed the Appendix B language from shall to may, in terms of the Water Commission holding a special meeting and setting emergency rules. And a water emergency may not always require that course of action.
Right, but it says includes but not limited to, so if we deem something else as an emergency, it's an emergency.
Yep. I'm fine with it.
I'm fine.
So did you make that motion?
Yeah.
Did somebody second it? There, we have a motion and a second to adopt the water ordinance. Further discussion?
Joel did.
Per the changes, right?
Right, with Joel's changes.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Val, I'll make the changes and then send you a clean copy.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This is big. This has been on the list for a really long time. So this is a big thing.
Move on to the next one.
Yes.
Personnel policy. That'll be next.
Grant authorization request, Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative.
In my description in the tier report, I basically kind of copied what was written out from the prior application.
Moved.
Much the same.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Grant authorization.
And we have a good chance of getting it this year. I think we were close last year. It's a much bigger pool of money this year. We have an idea of what was funded last year, and we're just taking essentially the application that we used last year, doing a bit of tweaking. But we think it's a solid application, so hopefully we will be successful. And also too, being a designated downtown gets us a little bit higher in the list there for choices.
Good deal. Grant authorization request, Addison County transportation planning study for development of new sidewalk on Airport Drive.
I don't know if it's Airport Road or Airport Drive. I think it's Airport Drive. But it-
Airport Drive.
Airport Drive.
Yeah. So
I said, you can tell I didn't read it.
I use it interchangeably. One paragraph it's drive and the other paragraph it's road.
Right.
I make a motion that we authorize the request for this with talking with the Mount Abraham Union High School's Unified District Board. Let's not get the same thing. We accused them 2 months ago about not informing us about Mountain Street. So I'd like to see about, I don't want to see this sidewalk end at the gate and then they just go. From a school bus driver's point, the kids do that. They just cut across the gate and go. Where's their, do they have a plan of, if we bring a sidewalk to them, will they use it and continue with a sidewalk onto their campus further?
Yeah.
I would like to at least have this talk with them so we don't surprise them like they did us.
Put a sidewalk to their gate and say.
Oh, you didn't tell us you were doing this?
Yeah.
Well, it was a two-way street, right? Last month.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Well, I'm going to frame, I intend to frame the proposal or the application anyway, to bring it all the way to the school. So whatever scoping study, or whatever project happens, they would be at the table, and the outcome would be a scoping study. And I've received confirmation today that it can even be a preliminary design that might be biddable for construction. So it won't be
good.
support, but we might actually have preliminary functional designs that we can move forward. But yeah, they would definitely be at the table, an active partner in making sure that this is it goes the full length of what it needs to do and accomplish what it needs to accomplish.
Perfect.
So we'll have this scoping study, we'll have Munsell scoping study, we'll have the crosswalk scoping study.
Crosswalk is a design.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Scope it and design it.
No study
Build
there,
it.
that's a design.
Right.
Good, that's great.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff going on. This is really good.
Further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand, aye.
Aye.
I'm gonna say aye, but I just know you put a sidewalk in there and if they go straight to the other sidewalk.
They ain't gonna use it.
never
If
gonna
you
use
go all the
it.
way to the one that goes to the trailer park, they're never gonna, that's why I said, I wanna talk with them. And if it's gonna end at the gate and they're not sure what they're gonna do, I'm not sure I wanna put the money into it.
Opposed,
If you-
nay? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you design it well, people will use it. I would use it. I've walked down there with the kids. I would love a sidewalk there. If students don't use it, that's their thing. But I think a lot of people in town would use a sidewalk right there.
It's been on the list for a very long time.
If you're an adult, you would use it. Any teenager is gonna find the shortest distance. and
Sure.
get-
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they don't use the sidewalk from the first parking lot to the school. They cut across.
They need stripes and right up through on an angle, right to the front door. All right, review and approval of the June 28th, July 12th, July 26th, August 9th, and August 16 meeting minutes. Which ones are we doing, Valerie?
The August 9th was emailed this afternoon and posted to the website. The others are still in different stages of stuff.
And I haven't reviewed them, so
right.
I say we move it to next meeting.
Next meeting.
Onward.
Okay. Making progress though, but as we have observed, there is a lot going on, so it's just time.
Authorize accounts payable warrants and any liquor licenses. Tasha, do you have the amount?
The new amount.
The
I
new
do, yep. 92,032 cents.
Alrighty. They're out on the counter, so make sure you sign them. Select board roundtable. Ian.
I was just had a bit of concern, especially with uptick in numbers, what the town's masking policy might be inside, and how we might encourage in-person meetings and hybrid meetings just for our other boards and committees, and what we would do with regard to that, or what would our policy be regarding masking, since the CDC is recommending, even if you're vaccinated, to wear masks indoors.
I talked with Sharon about this last week, and because the lobby area is protected by the plexiglass, and a lot of folks are still working remotely or not in the office yet. They haven't been as concerned about going full mask for day-to-day operations. So that's where it is at the moment. The plexiglass is believed to be an effective protection.
Okay, I mean, I guess I was more, rather than staff inside, just the public coming in. I guess that was my question, and there aren't a lot of people coming in, but I mean, it could add up over time. And then in terms of you don't have the plexiglass if you're sitting around a table,
right?
And so I was just curious, like what other boards would do, or committees or commissions would do. And if we have concerns about that, I prefer not to have, members of the planning commission get sick and not be able to have meetings and potentially have health issues, or any other committee.
Do you want to make a recommendation or something?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure, like as Darla and Michelle are doing this evening, wearing a mask, in a room in a small enclosed space, perhaps that's the answer. And maybe commissions would do that. I mean, it's obviously your personal preference, but I just, before we get to a time where it's gotten more serious than it is now, I think it would be nice for us as a select board to know what we might recommend for the rest of our boards, since they're all volunteer too.
Mm-hmm.
I can say, because I knew there would be a small number of us here, I was comfortable, but if there were a few more people in this room, I would have stayed home. Because I tend to be out I'm in childcare and I'm in other places. I need to be really careful about my exposure.
Right.
And I know some of the other boards are still meeting virtually. I know the board that John is on, they're meeting virtually. But
Yeah, I was gonna say most of them are hybrid.
Yeah.
Are they actually allowed to do that though? I mean, because of the recommendations by the state, is it just us that needs to have a public, or do all of our boards need to have a public place?
All the municipal boards have to have a public place.
I think they are. I think they're doing a hybrid. I think most of them are doing a hybrid.
Kind of like what we're doing.
Right.
Okay. All right. As long as, I mean, I don't mind if we're okay to do all virtual and the board wanted to do all virtual, I think that's totally fine as well. But I know that by law, I think it changed back to at least at least one person needs to be at a place where the public could come in.
Right.
I don't know if the Energy Committee is doing that. I haven't watched one of their meetings recently. They're a small group. I think they're only meeting remotely, but I could ask Sally about that.
Anything else?
No, that was it for me. Thank you.
Darla?
I was sent an email by Russ Luke, who lives at 50 Mountain Street. And if I can I share my screen for a minute?
You'll have to ask about.
Yep.
For Darla.
Can I share my screen?
She said absolutely not.
No way. Never.
First screen?
Go for it.
Okay.
Let me see. Here we go. So Russ sent me, they have the sign in front of their house. They're right on Mountain Street, right at the intersection of Spring Street.
We haven't got you yet. There.
And they have this sign that, number one, Russ said it's, they see a lot of motor vehicles stopping abruptly there. They don't understand what the sign is for. Like, why can't I finish going down the street? Number one. The other thing is, as you can see, the sign is faded and sits right in front of their house, in front of Nancy's garden, and it's not their, number one, it's not their favorite sign. Number one, it needs to be replaced if it's gonna go back up. Russ and Nancy take it down outside of school times. They keep it safe in their barn and they put it back up before school starts.
It's illegal.
Even though it's illegal. They, number one, question the reasoning for the sign. We do have a police officer there regularly now. The fact that it sits right in front of their house, they feel like it's an eyesore. And Russ wanted us to see this and discuss it tonight.
I thought the sign, there was a sign there that says do not enter when lights are flashing.
Yeah, there is.
There's another piece below that. This is the
He's
picture
not
that I
showing
was
it,
sent.
so.
Yeah.
Actually, I was on the
This
board.
is off and he's.
I was on the school board when we put this up, and Russ was on the school board when we put this up. And Russ volunteered his front lawn there, right where it is, and we
Yeah, I don't
talked
think
about this now, he goes, I wish I'd never done that, Joe.
And I
I
don't
wondered
think I
that night when you,
about it.
and I said, I wondered that night when you said that 25 odd years ago. But I think it could be, I agree with you, up to there, I know it, I said do not enter. And, but, you know, you go up there at 2:30 in the afternoon before the buses get there, or Saturdays, the light's not blinking.
Right,
So-
that's why the sign underneath says, when lights are
Right.
flashing, do not enter.
Right.
I don't know whether
So
it's
you gotta
under
have
or
the whole
above it.
sign in context,
Right.
so.
Yeah, so,
It is a confusing sign, though. I have to agree. It is a confusing sign.
you
Because
have,
we have very few of those around town, if any. This is probably the only one. I don't know if Bruce has a thought on that, the idea of taking it down. Can it be replaced with something else that's perhaps clearer to the public?
Yeah, but I also want to say, you know, Bruce may not always be around.
right,
And so we may
Right.
not always have an officer there.
You guys get this.
No, I would not be a fan of taking it down. Probably replacing it with a newer one. The timer, it's set on a timer, and sometimes that doesn't always work the way it's supposed to. If the school or somebody had some funds and maybe we replace the timer with some kind of remote control device, and we could turn it on when we need it and turn it off when afterwards, we wouldn't run into those issues where in non-school days where the lights flashing.
and there was days when I was on the board, Bruce, you know, if we call for a snow day and it flashed, or 2-hour delay, and it wasn't turned on when we wanted it turned on, it was turned on the 2 hours before school started, and sometimes we wished, when Terry afterwards said that we sometimes wish we'd have thought it out a little quicker. 2 police chiefs or 3 police chiefs before Bruce thought, and this, we were having, cars blowing up through there, passing buses, and kids were almost getting hit, so we said, we're gonna put the stop thing down here.
Even with the sign there and the light flashing, people drive by it. On occasion, when the police car is there with lights on, people drive by it.
Bruce, is that an
There is.
enforceable violation if they do that?
If they go by the police car, yes.
Well,
don't-
if they drive past the do not enter sign and they enter.
Yes, as long as it's properly marked, it's a traffic control device.
Does it need a traffic ordinance?
And Josh said there's an ordinance on Mountain Street that this sign fulfills.
Right.
It's on Mountain Street?
I believe there is an ordinance, when I was on the school board, we asked the select board for ordinance that only Fitch Avenue be one way from, or Mount Street be one way from Fitch to Spring, going south, from 8 to 8:15, I believe it was, and 2:45 to 3.
3:15.
To 3.
That's 3, Bruce, yeah.
If we wanted to work with the property owner, can it be moved somewhere else, or is that's the best location for it?
If you
That seems to be the best location.
Okay.
you move it, you're gonna have it too far away from the intersection, and they'll say, I've already committed.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
then Bruce is gonna have to listen to him argue, I've already committed, and where am I supposed to turn around? And I think makes it way more problematic than what it needs to be.
Yeah.
He probably gets enough of that already.
Let's put it this way, our electrical bill for that sign was more to read it than it was, the charge to read it, than it was to buy the electricity. Terry used to say to him, can we just give you a flat fee once a year like the sugar makers or something? You better get your meter.
So I heard us say we'd look into something a more modern piece to put there.
Something.
Because it's also on that big honking.
Wooden platform that holds the meter, holds the power box.
And I almost wonder if there's maybe a solar solution. It would be less intrusive to the homeowner.
That would be up to Green Mountain Power though, because they still need the meter there.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know how they do it. Is there a meter on these down here that flash when you touch them?
Yeah,
Crossing
meter that they're tied into the streetlights.
They are?
Yep.
Well, I thought those aren't solar.
No,
When
we opted
did opt not to.
because we wanted to work 24/7, rain or shine.
Right.
I was just trying to brainstorm.
No,
Might work.
Yeah, it's been there a long time.
And Nancy's been mad ever since.
she needs to be.
Also said, put it down now, it's all right, that's all right.
All right, that's all. I have.
That's all you have, Joel.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I got a few things.
Thanks, Bruce.
As we're not meeting till the 13th, just to remind the public, the Sodbusters are having their big New England Sodbusters tournament. That's gonna be huge for Bristol, for the merchants and stuff on Labor Day weekend.
This was postponed from last year, is that correct?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
postponed from
Correct.
last year. It's the first time they've held it. They're gonna have courts where there are, and then all courts on the skating rink, also
Cool.
portable courts. Valerie, talking to, Alan Heisinger the other night. If we were told by December that we had funding for Pine Street, as the old saying, the old Obama saying is that project shovel ready?
This is going to be on the agenda on September 13th to talk about.
Okay. And then, I saw it tonight coming in. Are we, any thoughts of opening up on Fridays pretty soon?
Opening what?
Putting the office on Fridays?
That has not been brought up. Under the current COVID concerns, probably
Why
not.
not? Okay. And I just want you guys to know, the board and Valerie, especially you, that the work down with the grants and stuff and intersection and especially Firehouse Drive behind there and the housing has not gone unnoticed in Middlebury. I've had select board members and prominent citizens tell me, you guys are a moving town up there, you're getting a lot of shakers, you're getting a lot of stuff done. And it's glad to see it. So it's not going unnoticed.
Oh,
Great.
It hasn't happened overnight.
You know what happened? That firehouse has been a long time. That's boards before us boards that started that conversation.
Apart from Peaker.
It's not part of it, but it hasn't gone unnoticed. So, and that's all I have here. Michelle.
I'm good.
That's great.
I believe I am good as well. So we are on to an administrator's report.
I do not have much to report other than what's already listed in the tier report. I won't go through that, but I just want to remind folks that this weekend coming up is the anniversary of Tropical Storm Irene, and quite a time it was. So anyway, I don't know what kind of commemoration or reflections are anticipated for that, but
I'll go home and turn my water hose on and help.
We had a party last weekend to take care of it. We're all set.
Good night.
Good night, Irene.
Anything else?
I'm all set.
Other business, correspondence reports, correspondence received. Nothing. Executive session, contract negotiation, and personnel matters.
I think we only really have personnel matters, don't we, Val?
Correct.
Okay, I'll make a motion to enter executive session to discuss personnel matters per 1 VSA section 313A3.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
If I say no, can I leave?
No. No, you just get your name in the minutes.
That's right.
Thank you, everyone.
In another place.
Night, guys.
Night.
Thanks.
Thank you. Oh, Bruce, did you want to come in and be invited in? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
yeah, I really
Okay.
did.
Amend my motion to invite Bruce.
You'll have to let Tasha know that because she's gone.
I'll add it.